Hi guys, I'm covering Freud Psychoanalysis. A little bit about his background. He came from a family with a few siblings that he was, of course, jealous with. This led him to be a little narcissistic because he was the favorite. He spoke 8 languages, which makes him pretty brilliant. Later in his life, he did not have a professorship because he was a clinical neurologist. And then later down the road, around age 40-ish, he had a negative view on sex. So he stopped having sex with his wife, and he had a weird relationship with his daughter. First, he had instincts, life instinct and death instinct. Life instinct was the drive to ensure survival of oneself and the species at large, mainly satisfying things like food, water, air, and sex to reproduce. Then he had the death instinct, which was an unconscious drive towards decay, destruction, and aggression. So something like this would be some people being addicted to drugs and alcohol. It's an unconscious thing that's going to really kill you in the end. And then he had 3 main structures of your mind: the id, the ego, and the superego. The id is the instinctual pleasure-seeking part of the mind, mainly driven by the pleasure principle, which is to avoid pain and maximize pleasure. The ego is the rational part of the mind. It is kind of like a relay between the id and the superego. And then the superego is the moral and ethical conscious, shaped by societal norms and what your parents teach you. In the superego, there's your conscious and your ego ideal. Your conscious contains behaviors that as a child you have been punished for, and then ego ideal contains morals or ideal behaviors that a person should strive for. Now, there's a threat to the ego, which Freud would say would be anxiety, which he defines as the feeling of fear and dread without an obvious reason. He named kind of 3 major ones, which are reality anxiety, which is fear of what you can actually see, what are actual dangers, those things. Neurotic anxiety, which would be conflict between the id and the ego. This usually had to do with instinctual gratification and reality being in conflict. He said that this was based in childhood. And then finally there's moral anxiety. This would be the conflict between ID and superego, which would be a fear of one's own conscious. Now, he did have some strategies that developed to defend against these, called defense mechanisms. There's repression, denial, reaction formation, projection, regression, rationalization, displacement, and sublimation. Some are putting the blame on other people. Some are kind of making the problem go away into deep unconscious parts of your mind so you don't ever think about it. These are all just to keep you from feeling this anxiety. Next, Freud had proposed psychosexual stages of development. There's 5 of them. The first would be oral stage, from birth to your first year, which would be focusing on your mouth, tongue, lips, during breastfeeding, that sort of thing. Then there's anal stage, which is from 1 to year 3. Focus on the anus, toilet training, that sort of thing. Next is the phallic stage, year 3 to 6. Focus on genitals, resolving Oedipus complex, which is children, boys being attached to their mother and girls being attached to their father. They feel like they're in competition with the other sex Then there's the latency stage. This is years 6 to 12. There's not really focus on anything except the development of these defense mechanisms that I just talked about. And then there's the genital stage, which is 12 years and on. He says that by the time you reach this stage, if you had developed properly in the previous 4 stages, that you should be a fully sexually and mentally matured individual. He had free association and dream analysis. Free association is a technique that patients say whatever comes to mind. It was described as like a daydreaming out loud, but you can often run into resistance, which means that the patient kind of refuses to disclose the painful memories that pop up during this assessment. And then finally, he believed in dream analysis, believed that dreams were represented in different symbols, that they often repressed desires, fears, and conflicts that were so strongly pushed down that they can only come out in dreams. And then he had 2 aspects of these dreams: manifest and latent content. Manifest refers to actual events in the dream, and then latent content would be the hidden symbol meaning of the dreams. And then finally, I think that Freud's theory is missing some stages to the development of people. I don't think that there's just 6. I think that it's an ongoing process of developing as you age, because oftentimes I find myself even a year ago that I'm not the same and that I've changed ways or do things a lot differently than what I did. But I do believe that he made a very good building block for all these other theories that are out right now. Thank you for listening.